What if you could run a large Zoom meeting where everyone stays muted during the presentation and then open it up for Q&A only when you are ready? So instead of random interruptions, background noise, or people accidentally unmuting themselves, your meeting feels organized, controlled, and professional, almost like a webinar experience. And I'm going to show you how to do this. Hi there, I'm Betsy, and I've been on Zoom every day for years, so you don't have to figure all of this out the hard way. And this video is part of my playlist, Zoom Mistakes That Cost You Clients. The good news is Zoom actually has settings behind the scenes that allow you to eliminate disruptions while you lead dynamically and gain new clients at the end of the meeting. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to set up your Zoom meetings so that the participants enter muted, and then how to prevent them from unmuting until you want to allow it, and how to create a much smoother and more professional experience while still keeping the flexibility and engagement that meetings are known for. We're also going to cover how to assign co-hosts, how to manage Q&A through the chat, and how to spotlight speakers so that everyone stays on screen, can be seen during the presentation, and that everyone stays focused on that right person. I'll also show you how to communicate with people in the waiting room, and even how to create a backup recording using a co-host's local computer. These are the small setup decisions that completely change how professional your Zoom meetings feel. So if you've been winging it on those larger Zoom calls, this video is going to help you feel much more confident running the room. As always, the timestamps are below. Use them if you need them. Okay, let's go take a look. Before we jump in, if you want my free Zoom Mastery checklist with the exact settings I review before running important Zoom meetings, I'll put that link below. And if it helps you avoid the little mistakes that make Zoom calls feel stressful and unprofessional, leave me a comment about it below. All right, so here we are in my live Zoom meeting room. Now, a Zoom meeting is where everyone who comes in is going to have the capability to be on camera, like I am right now, and also to have their microphone open like mine is. But we have settings available to us that we can set so that we're in control about when we want people to be able to unmute and when they can't. So when people say that they are going to attend a webinar, in Zoom terms, a Zoom webinar is something different than a Zoom meeting. A Zoom webinar is where everyone who attends, and you can have thousands in a Zoom webinar, who are off camera. They are not identified with their name and they are muted. You can have a chat available to them and you can have a Q&A available to them, but it is simply a sidebar in the screen where they can type their questions, but they don't appear on camera and they can't even have that capability unless you invite them as maybe one of the panelists. So it's very different in a Zoom webinar, and it actually is an add-on. It does not come automatically with your Zoom account. Whereas like in here in a Zoom meeting where you have this full toolbar, actually as a participant, you have many of these same buttons. You might not have the host's tools, you might not have breakout rooms, but in a Zoom meeting, when you're a participant, you get to see the participants that are there with you. You get to see the chat. You get to over here, turn your video on or turn your video off, or turn your microphone on or turn your microphone off. So as the host running the event, it is so important to follow along in this video and see which settings you want to set so that you can design it yourself. You can say, hey, when they enter, I want to make sure they are muted upon enter. And I'm going to show you how to do that now. All right, so here we are with the participants list open. And as the host or as the co-host, you can see this button in the bottom right corner, which says more. And when you click there, one of the options says mute all upon entry. Now look at those little switches there. If they're a gray color or a dark gray color, they are off. So right now, if people were to enter my Zoom room, they would not be muted upon entry. And it would be up to how they are controlling their equipment on their end. And so think about this. When people enter a Zoom, they don't mean to disrupt with their audio. They just click the link that you provide and then they enter. And sometimes they don't even notice that they are unmuted. And what's happening in their own home or office or location, maybe they're coming to you from a noisy coffee shop and they've got their headset on, but their microphone is open. And so they're coming in and that noise in their background is going to come into your Zoom meeting. You can also have scenarios where people are just coughing or moving their chair, or maybe their dog is in the room, or there's a landscaper outside. And using this setting here, mute participants upon entry, let me move that down a little bit, allows you to control that. Now, in addition, there's a setting right here, allow participants to unmute themselves. So what you could also do is uncheck that. And then when you click continue, they would not be able to unmute themselves when they got in. And so as part of the settling in, people gather and you're getting ready. Maybe you're even playing music as they're entering. Maybe you have a screen, a shared screen that says, welcome. Please, as you get seated and get settled, here's the agenda, or here are the initial steps to follow. It's great. And then you don't have to say that and everybody's getting settled. And then when you want to do, let's say, a welcome section where you want people to introduce themselves, you can come over to someone's name, let's say, and right next to them, you can see there's a little microphone icon, the red line through it. And when you hover over it, it says ask to unmute. You see, you can't unmute someone for them for privacy reasons. Instead, you can click that button and then they are prompted on their end to unmute. And then when they do, you'll see it show up in the participants list. And then you can see there that their microphone now doesn't have a red line through it, and then they are ready to speak. Now, if you have a very large meeting underway and there are more people than you see here, we're testing this out and we're simulating the meeting for you. And so in a very large meeting, you're going to have a very large list here. And therefore, you might need some help with these buttons. And that means if you need someone to control this screen for you, either asking all to unmute, there is that button there that if you had a list of 500 people and you wanted them all to be able to unmute, you could. Not that I would, but you could. If you wanted to hover over certain people who maybe were selected ahead of time, maybe they won the opportunity to speak for 2 minutes and you put a timer up on the screen, and you want only to unmute them, then you can find their name in this list alphabetically. Their names will be listed by their first name, and then you can hover over. Well, only the host and the co-host can do this. So what I advise you to do at the beginning of your event, before you admit everybody from the waiting room, you invite your team in here with you. And so let's say that all of the team members are here. And as the host, I'm the one in the top position. I can hover over someone's name and go to those 3 dots there. And then in the pop-up menu, I can use the option that says make co-host. And when I do that, I get this confirmation and then I click confirm. And from there, you can see where it says that person now is considered the co-host. And on their screen, they will have the same capabilities that the host has. They are able to either ask everyone to unmute, or they can go to a particular person who they know has been selected to unmute, and they can ask them to unmute. So a lot of these settings begin in the place where you schedule the meeting. And this is over at zoom.com. And so you can see here when we're scheduling, we put in the title of our meeting, we put in the date and the time and the duration and the time zone. And then you also include whether you're going to make this recurring. This is a member kickoff call in this situation where we have, like we said, around 500 members coming. You might even have 75. 75 people in a Zoom meeting is where you might want to use these settings. Even less than that. So when I say a large Zoom meeting, it doesn't necessarily have to be in the hundreds. This could be something where you want to set it up so that you are in control and these settings will work beautifully. You can also see here in your meeting scheduler that you would use registration as well. Below there are the settings for audio and video. So in addition to the settings with security and AI companion, you can see if you scroll all the way down, you'll get the section which talks about whether their video is on or whether their audio is using computer audio or both computer and telephone. And if you need more instructions for how to set up a meeting like this in the Zoom web portal, we have a video on that for you. It's called The Beginner's Guide to scheduling a Zoom meeting and sending out the invitations. And I'll put the link for that video in the description below. So where you can see here, the host video on or off, that's how when the meeting is starting, if you want your video on, we'll keep it on. You will have the ability to turn it off or turn it back on, but this is how it is set when the meeting begins. And if you want people coming in with their video on, they do have the ability to turn it off. But if you wanted to see everyone, even though they're muted, you still would be able to see everyone. The audio section does indicate whether you want telephone, computer audio, or both. Now, if you are in an area where you need people to be able to dial a telephone number and call in to your meetings, then use telephone audio. But for the most part, many of us, even if we're joining a Zoom meeting from our mobile device, we're using the Zoom Workplace app, the mobile app on that device, and that still is using computer audio. It's through computer cellular or computer Wi-Fi. You can see right below there, it says show right next to options, and that opens up even more of these settings. And then sure enough, you can see where it says allow participants to join anytime. That is when you are setting up a Zoom room where you want people to come in, even if you're not there yet. And so you could check it off. They can join anytime. And that means that when they click the link that you have given them, they will be able to come right into the Zoom room. Now, given that you don't have a waiting room on. Now, what you see right below there, you do see Q&A. However, that's only for certain Zoom accounts. But you see right below there, it says mute participants upon entry. So here's the great part. If you know prior to getting into your meeting live with your team and before you've admitted everyone, you could set it up here. And when you click here, you can see that's why mine is checked off, because I love this setting. So you can set it here. And when people click your link to join, they will be muted at that point. The next couple of options are really great as well. They aren't as much with control, except this one, automatically recording your meeting. That's a great one. I record my meetings in the cloud so that I can record different settings. And this makes it so that I do not forget to record. And then finally, the other options, if you see this one, enable focus mode when meeting starts. Focus mode is a great way to change the look of your meeting and automatically turn off everyone's video as well. So if you like this option of saying, yes, I'm going to start this, everyone's going to have their videos on. And then at one point, I want to start the presentation and everybody's video goes off and they have to focus on the presentation. Thus the name, focus mode. They also are not able to use their microphone. They will still see you. They'll see the host. They'll see the co-hosts. So make sure that the host or co-hosts are the ones that are presenting, and they will see the shared screen as well. And they can see themselves, but they won't be able to see anyone else that's there. They will be able to see their names, and they'll be able to see their names in the participants list. So it doesn't take away the fact that they don't know how many people are there. So it isn't exactly like a webinar, which is that way. Webinars, you really don't know how many people are attending. But with a meeting, which you can use with your Zoom account with no webinar add-on, then you can run a meeting like this and turn on focus mode. And keep in mind that if you don't see this option, if you're following along right now and you're inside your own account and you don't see this option for focus mode, then you want to make sure that you follow that Zoom mastery checklist and make sure you go through your settings in the Zoom portal and make sure focus mode is enabled. And that just gives you the ability to start it when the meeting starts. And that link for the Zoom mastery checklist is in the description below. And then to finish this out, what you see underneath there is a section for alternative hosts. Don't mix that up with co-hosts. They're not the same thing. Alternative hosts are people who are on your same Zoom account as extra licenses. So only if you have a bigger account with multiple licenses, you should be using this. Otherwise, follow along as I showed earlier with assigning a co-host. And then finally, if you needed interpretation, there are settings for that. And the most important thing is that you click save when you're going to save your meeting. When you send out the invite and people click on a link, as long as you've used the waiting room, they will be greeted inside there first. And so when you're in here with your team getting ready, all those people are starting to click that link. They will land in there and you'll see that the waiting room is on. So you've got the participants list on, and that's how I would prepare. I would invite your team in first. And yes, your team members should get there very early, because if they are in the mix here, you can just admit them. So you don't want to admit admit somebody who is not a team member, and you can see the team members are already joined and they're down here. If you wanted to, you could hover over just one person and just click that admit button there. And that would let just that other team member in, or maybe the speaker. You've invited the speaker to come and they need to come in here early. Kind of like this is your green room where you're getting ready before the show starts. Or you could just let everyone gather. So let's say the whole team is here. And then as it's getting closer and closer to showtime, this entire list will start to grow, right? It's 500 people, and this is going to be a very large list. So you don't have to go through each one and admit each one individually. There is a button right above there that says admit all. So you're going to be able to open the doors and let them all in. In addition, you could broadcast a message to the waiting room, and that everyone there would see the same message. And it could say something like, "We will begin shortly." It could be as brief as that, or it could be something more about what they need to get ready to do or bring with them. If you have a more lengthy message for your waiting room, I highly advise you to create a message for your waiting room and put that out there, especially a video, because then it's you speaking right to the camera, and that video has to be recorded ahead of time, and then you put it inside your waiting room. If you want some more instruction on how to do that, because I always say that is one mistake that is killing your attendance, is that when people arrive and they see nothing, they might just see a Zoom logo, they check out. And look, if they have a paid event, fantastic. They're more likely to stick around. But if this is a free event to the public, you have hundreds attending, you want them all to attend. You want them all to wait for you. And so if you want some instruction on that, check out our video on our channel called "This One Zoom Mistake is Killing Your Attendance." When you have people in the waiting room and you're chatting with them, your chat, which usually looks like this during a meeting, but you'll notice down at the bottom, there is a drop-down list. And when you click there on that little menu button, the little menu button that says waiting room participants, you can see that there are options that you can message people inside here. That would be with your team. That's meeting group chat. Like in this scenario, we have not started yet and we're getting ready. And then you will see all of the waiting room participants. So sometimes when people enter the waiting room, depending on your event, maybe they're supposed to bring their license number or their registration number in order to prove that they are where they need to be. And if their name doesn't match up with your registration list, you can actually message them inside there. You can click their name and then say, something like, "Please provide, your registration confirmation number," or something like that, if that pertained to your event. And now that message right there is just sent to that one particular person in the waiting room. And then when it comes time to admit everyone and open the doors, you click the button at the top inside the participants list, which says admit all. When you admit people into the main meeting room, sometimes you'll hear that doorbell sound go off. And with a very large meeting, I would not advise it. It's really helpful when you have a smaller meeting and you want to be alerted that of the 20 people or 30 people that were invited, somebody has entered. But with a very large group, you don't want that going off. So to prevent it, inside the participants list, you're going to click on more. And now this is only for you hosts and co-hosts of the event. You're going to come down and where it says play, join, and leave sound, you're going to switch that off, and then you won't have that sound effect. And I'll tell you what I do use this for is when I'm waiting for someone to attend a one-on-one coaching call. I do meet people privately who hire me to go through their exact steps with them. And when I'm waiting for them, I've set up my room. I might be working on something and maybe my attention's over here and I'm not looking at the Zoom meeting and I want to be alerted that they have come into the waiting room. I definitely use that sound. And so I could be in my office here and I'll be alerted that they have arrived. And then I'll know to come back and start the meeting because I'll open up the meeting early, just like if you came to my physical office and I opened up my building and you arrived a little early, I would welcome you in. So it works very much the same way here inside Zoom. When everyone has been admitted and it's time to begin, then you want to start putting messages in the main meeting group chat for everyone to see. And you have to make sure down there in the bottom of the chat bar, when it still says waiting room participants, you need to click there and then choose the main meeting group chat so that you'll see this. And at the very top, you can see two boxes. One says everyone and the other one says new chat. And so make sure that everyone is lit up with a blue border like it is now. And then everything you see here is for everyone that is present. Now, here's the thing. When people arrive a little bit late, it just happens. People show up to your event 5 minutes late, 10 minutes late. Think about if you were in a big conference center and someone arrives at the back of the room and they kind of sneak in and they go to that back row, and they're still watching the presentation. That could happen in your Zoom event where someone arrives and they enter. Well, they're going to see an empty chat. So what I want you to get into the best practice of is when you put messages in the chat, put them in periodically. So if you're going to alert them to something that you are giving away, or maybe you have a handout or a guide to follow along with, and you're putting that message in the chat, or maybe towards the end, if this is something where you're pitching a new product or service and you put your link in the chat, you want to make sure that anybody who has left and come back in or is just arriving, they do have a blank chat. And so you have to put those messages in periodically. And if you would like more instructions on how to use the chat in a live Zoom meeting and keep everybody engaged, we have a video with instructions on how to do exactly that. And I'll put the link to that video in the description below. And here's a great tip for controlling when people are arriving late. And you've started this big event, you're expecting around 500 people, and not everybody shows up right at that start time, but you want to be respectful of the time that you said you'd start, and especially for the people who have shown up. So I always say start promptly. And so what happens to the people who are arriving late? Well, they are going to be entering the waiting room. And if you have co-hosts available, give one of them that responsibility to monitor the waiting room. And then they can maybe check the names against your registration list and let people in. Exactly that. However, if you are in a position where you're like, look, after it started, especially if it's 10 minutes late, I don't want people, held up in the waiting room. I just want them to come right in, because then presentation will be underway. So you must do this. You need to locate your host tools, and you can be the host or the co-host doing this. And then on the right-hand sidebar, you see up at the top, the second option says enable waiting room. Well, it's lit up. So right now the waiting room is enabled. And if you click there, then it's off. And that means that you have disabled the waiting room. And anybody who clicks your link to come into your meeting will come right in. You can also see some other options. The first one says to lock the meeting. And if you wanted to do that and you turned it on, you have locked the meeting and no one else can join. And so if you had that stipulation, if you said, hey, there's a sense of urgency, you say, hey, please come to my free event. And everybody who gets there before a certain time will get my free guide or my free calculator or my free checklist. And you're giving them this sense, I'm going to give you a gift, but you got to be there by a certain time and then stay to the end. And so if you don't want to let anybody else in, you click on that option, make sure it's lit up. And now they will get a message when they click the link to get in, and they'll say, sorry, the meeting is locked. And if you're realizing there's a whole side of Zoom hosting that most people never learn, make sure you join the priority list for the Zoom Business Academy. That's where I teach educators, agents, coaches, and business owners how to confidently run professional Zoom events without winging it. You'll find the link to join the priority list in the description below. And then when you join the list, you'll be the first notified when doors are about to open. Now, with your large event happening, depending on whether it's free or paid, you may have also indicated that there's going to be a replay involved. And the replay will then be shared to all the people who attended. And there's a lot of options for this. You could say that the replay is included with their price of admission. Some people charge extra for the replay if it's a free event. And that way it gives a little more urgency to invest in your training or your presentation. And in some cases, it's reserved for people who might be only in your VIP program. In any event, in order to get that recording, you want to make sure that you didn't forget to start it. And so as you saw earlier in the video, we showed the section on scheduling meetings, and there is an option in there to make sure that the recording happens automatically. So that's one way. The other way is to ask your co-host to record locally. And so this is how you do that. First of all, you'll see that the record button is in your toolbar there. And right now mine's lit up because there is a record recording in progress. And when you go to the participants list, so as you can see here, it shows next to my name that there is a cloud recording in progress with a cloud icon and a little red blinking dot. But if you wanted one of your team members to also record, you could go next to their name, click on the three dots, and then in the pop-up menu, it does say allow to record to computer. When you do that, it gives that person the permission to record locally. And this is a great way to have one of your team members on their own computer to have a backup copy of the recording, just to make sure. Now, keep in mind when someone is recording locally, and gives them permission to only record locally, so it's recording directly to their computer, you want to make sure they're told to not adjust the screen. Whatever they see is going to be recorded. So make sure that they stay focused on the presenter and the shared screen, if that's what you want to be in the recording. Don't have them scrolling the screen from side to side, looking at people in the gallery, because that's going to be caught on the recording. They just keep that one dedicated screen on the presentation and the presenter, and then it will be fine. Now, this next setting will show you how to make sure that that presenter stays on the screen, and it's called spotlighting them. So when you're running a large meeting and you've already made sure that everyone is muted upon entry and that they have stayed muted, the next thing to make sure is that your speaker is unmuted and that they're also spotlighted. And this assures you that they will be front and center and focused on the screen. They won't be lost in that gallery. And so here inside the participants list, you can see right next to your speaker, you're going to go to those three dots. And then in the menu, you're going to choose Spotlight for Everyone. And then you can see in the upper corner, it says remove spotlight. And all you do is you click there when they are done speaking. You can also click those three dots beside their name in the participants list. And in the pop-up menu, you can choose remove spotlight. So you have the control now of choosing Spotlight for Everyone that brings their live video feed to the forefront with their shared screen. And they're also the one caught on the recording. So when you are recording inside Zoom, it is going to pick up the active speaker, the one making the noise. And so this way, they are always on the screen as a spotlighted speaker. And then when they're done, and maybe you're going to rotate to another speaker, you want to remove the spotlight from one, and then you can spotlight another. You can also spotlight multiple people. All you do is you click beside their name and choose Add Spotlight, and then you'll have multiple people spotlighted at once. Professional Zoom meetings do not happen accidentally. They are designed intentionally. So hopefully you can see now running a large Zoom meeting successfully isn't about having more technology. It's about knowing how to control the experience, because people may not remember every slide you shared, but they absolutely remember whether the meeting felt organized, engaging, and easy to follow. And if this helped you, make sure to like, subscribe, and check out the rest of the playlist, Zoom Mistakes That Cost You Clients. And I'll see you in the next video.